it's not that much money a month.
Now, there was something else that you said that you wanted to talk about that Dave Asprey had said that was incorrect.
Oh, that was the epigenetic test, the Swedish study. I listened to the podcast that you had some time ago, and he's got good information. I don't want to say otherwise, but I wanted to correct that because he had said that the children from the well-fed, the ones that were grandchildren of the well-fed children got type 2 diabetes less, and that was completely wrong. It was the opposite.
Yeah, he's a collector of interesting ideas, and although I like the guy, he gets shit wrong, and I don't know if he's always that good about recognizing when he has done that and correcting himself. We've had a real issue with him as of lately because of mycotoxins. I don't know if you're aware of the whole issue of mycotoxins.
I know a little bit
coffee.
about it. Yeah, I'm not concerned about mycotoxins in coffee. I'm more concerned about not getting my omega-3 and all the other micronutrients involved in. I mean, aflatoxin is certainly something I don't want, but that's, peanuts.
Yeah.
So
mycotoxins in peanuts are a real issue as well, and corn. That's another real issue. Here's the issue. This guy is selling coffee, and now we're selling this coffee through Onnit that was supposed to be the cure to this issue.
Is this the coffee
of mycotoxins? No, you're actually drinking Hawaiian Kona coffee that I started drinking. I started drinking right after we got our results back on the mycotoxin tests.
Okay.
So his contention was that 70+%, whatever it was, of all coffee is infected with mycotoxins, and they make you sick. They make the coffee taste bitter. They make you taste bad. They make you feel bad. I took too much of this at face value and parroted a lot of the things that he said, and then we decided to start looking into it ourselves. Well, they've known about mycotoxins in coffee for a long time. There's a PubMed study from 1980 about mycotoxins in coffee. It's always been an issue, but they've been able to resolve that issue with wet processing. Wet processing, they know how good coffee providers know how to eliminate this from coffee. We tested 4 random coffees. Well, 2 random. 1 Starbucks, 1 random bag from Whole Foods, 1 coffee that we sell, which is the upgraded coffee that Dave produces, which is good coffee, good single-source coffee, and another one called Caveman Coffee. None of them tested positive for mycotoxins. And so, if 70% of all coffee has mycotoxins, and we had 3 bags other than the upgraded coffee, none of them are taking his upgraded, quote-unquote, bulletproof process, which he won't he won't reveal what this process is publicly. And so I kind of feel like there's some bullshit there, for sure. There's no way we're just going to find 4 bags of coffee and test them. So our friend Tate, who runs Bulletproof Coffee, he tested 2 bags, and his coffee and this upgraded coffee, and allegedly he found below threshold levels of mycotoxins in Dave's coffee. So I didn't conduct that test. I wasn't a part of that test. I don't know if it's right, but what the fuck? I feel like when you're a guy who's running on and doing these kind of interviews and spewing out all these facts, you have to be really fucking careful. You have to be really fucking careful that what you're saying is true. And if what you're saying turns out to not be accurate, and I find out you're profiting from what you're saying, it becomes bad. It becomes a real problem. And that's where we are with this upgraded coffee thing. We still sell it at Onnit because it is really good coffee, but we've removed all the literature on the mycotoxin issue, all the literature on that, because when you talk to the people that are in the know in the coffee industry, coffee growers, people who grade coffee and rate coffee, they actually have a rating system that is, like you get a 94, 95 if you have excellent coffee. Well, your coffee loses points if it tests positive for mycotoxins. They test it. So he's sort of created this issue and made this issue out to be like, there's a reason why you have bitter coffee. It's mycotoxins. Well, no, it's not. It's fucking burnt coffee, man.
Tannins.
Yeah.
Tannins are bitter in coffee.
Yeah, if you leave it on the pot and it stays heated, it gets bitter. mean, they've known that for years. There's no studies out there that show that coffee with mycotoxins in it tests bitter. And he also, like, this shit of him saying that all these different coffees have tested positive for mycotoxins. There's no tests. He's got no results. Like, you can't just go around saying that without producing the data publicly. You have to.
Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah. It's I certainly, like I said, aflatoxin's one thing where, that certainly can cause cancer. I've never really been that concerned about mycotoxins in my coffee being a carcinogen. I'm more concerned about my own metabolism generating a reactive oxygen species, because that's generating more, reactive oxygen species than some mycotoxins in the coffee. And that's
Well, mycotoxins most certainly exist. They exist in human breast milk. How about that? They exist.
Really?
Yes, sure. They exist. I mean, I've gone mycotoxin loopy after all this, starting to read the different areas where mycotoxins have been found, or aspects of mycotoxins that can affect human health. But the coffee one, they seem to have licked. They know what the fuck it is. They know what causes it, and they know how to deal with it. It's called wet processing. They know how to not store beans where they can get moldy. They know how to prevent these things from happening. So this guy,
they have incentive to do that.
Exactly. So this guy is sort of, he used my platform in a way that I don't think is totally ethical.
Yeah.
And, he claims that he's telling the truth, and he claims that, if you sign a non-disclosure agreement, he'll show you all his testing methods. But it seems to be bullshit. And I feel bad because I like the guy, and I think that, first of all, he's a collector of ideas. He doesn't have a formal education in education in nutrition. This is not something that he's got a PhD in.
Right.
He's not you.
Right.
Essentially is what I'm saying.
Right.
So when I talk to you about it, I'm getting it from someone who went to really good schools, and you do research every day for a fucking living. And that's what you do.
I do. And like I said, I'm not an expert in mycotoxin, but I've sort of not really been worried about it in coffee, just based on the little bit of reading that I've done. It
seems like it can be an issue if you have mycotoxin infected coffee, but if it's
really infected, we're talking like, if there's a trace amount of it, I don't really think it's.
That's what we found. Well, that's not what we found. What we found is 0. But what my friend Tate and Caveman Coffee found in his is below threshold levels of 2 different types of mycotoxins, which is not going to affect you at all.
No.
Well, not only that, they say that...
If anything, it's going to increase the expression of genes that are involved in stress resistance. It's going to have a little bit of a hormetic effect, possibly.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing was that the actual process of roasting the beans destroys a huge amount of the mycotoxins. A huge amount of the mold gets killed.
Yeah, another...
Like 70 to 80% in some cases.
This reminds me, there's this whole lectin thing is another thing when you're saying heat, that something destroys... The roasting process destroys the mycotoxin. Well, there's this whole thing with lectins, too, that's a big... I don't know, who started this lectin thing. I think maybe Mark Mercola, but I think he talks about it also. And it's like, you can't eat beans because beans have lectins, and lectins cause an immune response in your gut, and this is going to cause leaky gut. And that's not the whole story. It's a little more complicated. For one, lectins are inactivated by heat, and so unless you're chewing raw kidney beans or raw lentils, you're probably not activating an immune response in your gut. And actually, beans are really high in fiber, and fiber gets broken down into short chain fatty acids, which actually prevents the immune response in your gut. So it's actually doing the opposite. So there's people. Some people have good information, but they also have some bad information. And yeah, I agree with you. You got to be careful. I mean, anyone that's offering you like a magic bullet, like this is it. This is the cure. It's complicated, and there's trade-offs.
And I should be clear when I say that the roasting process supposedly eliminates mycotoxins. It just destroys the mold that causes the mycotoxins.
Which is the source. Yeah, right. It's upstream of it. Yeah.
Your roasting doesn't actually destroy mycotoxins, but it does destroy the mold, 70 to 80% of it in some cases. So it's another one of those cases where there's too much to know, there's too much to learn, and I have a guy on who says he's an expert, and some of the things that he says seem to be bullshit. and that's the big one, that everyone has mold in their coffee except me. I know how my super secret way of getting rid, but I fucking bought it. So here we have a problem that we've allowed to be created, but I'm not drinking it anymore because of that, just out of general principle. We'll probably eventually stop selling it. It is good coffee. It's good single source coffee. There's nothing wrong with the coffee. Just for me, I prefer the coffee from Hawaii. I love Kona coffee. It has a really great taste to it.
So
I
do a
just
lot
started
of people
drinking
buy
that.
this
Upgraded coffee, yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Well, not
Upgraded
only
coffee?
that, a lot of people buy it based on this premise that has not been proven, that most coffee has mold in it, with no fucking evidence whatsoever to back that up.
I haven't seen any evidence that most coffee has mycotoxin, and I haven't seen evidence that it has levels of mycotoxins that are harmful. So, you know,
there was one test that showed that in the bitterness area, there was one test that showed that mice, when they were given saccharin infused with mycotoxins, tended to avoid that saccharin with mycotoxins. But saccharin's a sweet thing. I mean, it's a sweet product. Like, and who knows why they're avoiding the taste of the mycotoxins? Who knows if their bodies have figured out that it's fucking poison? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
But running around saying that the reason why coffee's bitter is because of mycotoxins, just
coffee's bitter
stating
because
it
of
as
tannins.
a fact.
Tannins. That's the same thing that's in tea. Tannins. That's why. That's the bitter part of coffee.
But heat causes that?
No, they're naturally in those plants.
But when it gets burnt, that burnt taste.
You know, I don't know.
That burnt taste is
I haven't done enough research to know what the heat does to that process. It's possible. Yeah.
Well, that's what they say. I mean, the coffee experts say. When I fucking read more about coffee over the last 3 weeks than I've ever wanted to read or thought I would ever have to. But coffee experts, here's where it gets pretty clear. All call bullshit. All of them call bullshit on what he's saying. They all call bullshit across the board. Not just coffee providers, not just coffee growers, but coffee tasters, coffee experts, across the board think that what he's saying is horseshit. And that's usually a good sign. This one guy who's not even a fucking nutrition expert, and doesn't have a PhD in nutrition, he comes along with these incredible claims and also has this incredible method to alleviate this ailment. I mean, it's one of those classic examples, you know, create a problem and then offer a solution. Profit.
Yeah.
You know, and that's it seems to be what's been done here, whether or not it's intentional or not. I don't even think it was intentional, but I think that he's one of those guys that once he goes down a path, to say he was wrong or to try to
once you have a product on something, it's hard to then say you were wrong. I think
you're fucking profiting.
You put yourself
off
in
of
a
it.
situation where it's
tricky because it's not bad coffee. It's good coffee. It tastes good. It's, you know, from our testing, it's mycotoxin free. It's single source coffee. If he just sold it as that, it would be a really good product. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
The other thing about coffee experts is they want to know when it was roasted. They want to know. They want to know, like, it's like there's a time between when the coffee is roasted and how long you should, you know, keep it while it's still fresh. He doesn't offer that. He doesn't have any of that. So they're calling bullshit on that too. They're like, if you really cared about coffee, you would let us know when it's roasted. It should have a roasted by date, you know, or roasted on date.
Yeah. Sounds like it's pretty freaking complicated.
It's too complicated. I have children and jobs and things to do. I don't have time to deal with this shit. But I'm obligated now because I got thrust into this situation.
Yeah.